The morning she walked into my kitchen, I was standing at the counter eating cereal over the sink like I had done every single day for 6 years. No plate, no table, no conversation. Just the hum of the refrigerator, the gray light coming through the window, and the particular kind of silence that lives inside a man who has stopped expecting his mornings to mean anything. And then the door opened, and everything I thought I knew about routine, about discipline, about what it even means to start a day, it quietly, permanently changed. This is not the story I planned to tell. I did not think it was remarkable enough. I thought it was just my life. But the more I sat with it, the more I realized that what happened in those first few weeks, the collision between two completely different humans forced by family, by tradition, by a phone call I almost did not answer, revealed something about human nature that nobody really talks about. How two strangers, dropped into the same space by circumstance rather than choice, can either destroy each other or build something so unexpectedly solid that it quietly becomes the foundation of everything else. I want to tell you exactly how that happened, not the Instagram version, the real version, with the awkward silences and the small negotiations and the single moment that changed the direction of everything. Because if you have ever felt like your life was running on autopilot, like your mornings were just the mechanical countdown before the real day started, what I am about to share is going to hit differently than you expect. And if stories like this one are the reason you keep showing up, if you are the kind of person who believes there is something worth learning inside other people's real experiences, then hit subscribe right now, because Shadowlight Stories exists for exactly this. Every week, a story that makes you feel something you did not see coming. She came from a family where mornings were sacred. That was the first thing I noticed. Not her name, not her appearance. The way she moved through the kitchen at 6:45 in the morning like the space had been designed for purpose. She did not rush. She did not sleepwalk. She boiled water with the specific intentionality of someone who believed that the quality of the first hour determined the quality of everything that followed. I had never seen anyone treat a Tuesday morning like it mattered. I watched her from the doorway for a moment before she noticed me, and I felt something I could not immediately name. I think now that it was the quiet embarrassment of realizing how long I had been living without intention and not even knowing it. We had been introduced through our families 3 months before she moved in. An arrangement. Not forced, not coerced, but structured in the way that many South Asian families still structure things, where love is considered something you grow into rather than something you fall into first. I had agreed to it in the detached way you agree to things when you are 31 and tired, and vaguely aware that your life is not becoming what you imagined. She had her own reasons, her own quiet reservations, her own list of things she was not willing to compromise. We knew almost nothing about each other except what families present at a first meeting, which is essentially a highlight reel performed over chai. The real information, the incompatibilities, the ingrained habits, the private rituals, those only reveal themselves when two people are sharing a bathroom at 7 in the morning and neither of them has had coffee yet. The first 2 weeks were polite to the point of being almost funny. We were two professionals playing the role of people who live together while actually existing in carefully maintained parallel. I left the kitchen when she entered it. She turned the television down when I was on a call. We passed in the hallway with the cautious courtesy of coworkers who had been warned not to discuss certain subjects. Nothing was wrong, nothing was right, it was simply a waiting period. Two people circling each other while their nervous systems decided whether the other one was safe. And then, one Thursday, around day 16, something small happened. I came into the kitchen at my usual time. 6:50, sleep still on my face, cereal box already in my hand, and she was standing at the stove with a second cup of chai, already poured and set on the counter beside her. Not placed there for show. Just set there. For me. She did not make a thing of it. She did not look over to see my reaction. She just continued what she was doing, and I stood there holding that cereal box for a long moment before putting it down. That cup of chai was not just chai. It was a quiet declaration of intent. It said, without a single word, that she had noticed my morning, that she had paid attention to what time I came downstairs, what I did first, where I stood. It said that she had decided, before either of us had spoken openly about what we were building, to participate in my day, not to change it, not to correct it, just to be present inside it. And I did not understand in that moment how profoundly that gesture was about to reframe everything I thought I knew about partnership. Over the following weeks, the mornings began to shift, not dramatically, not with speeches or agreements or any kind of formal declaration, just gradually, the way weather changes. You do not notice the temperature dropping by 1 degree, but 30 days later, you are wearing a jacket. She started her journaling at the kitchen table, and I started eating at the table instead of over the sink. She began asking one question every morning. Not a deep question, not a probing question, just one. What does your day look like? And I started answering, and then I started asking back. And in that small, repeated exchange, something extraordinary was quietly being constructed. Researchers who study relationship formation talk about a concept called rituals of connection. The small, repeated behaviors that create emotional safety between two people over time. a morning greeting, a shared meal, the specific way one person hands the other their coffee. These rituals are not romantic gestures in the dramatic sense. They are not grand. But the science is clear that couples who maintain shared daily rituals report significantly higher levels of relationship satisfaction, trust, and resilience during hard seasons. What she instinctively understood, and what I was slowly, reluctantly learning, was that a relationship is not built in the exceptional moments. It is built in the ordinary ones, repeated with care. What nobody tells you about an arranged introduction is that it removes the performance layer that early romantic relationships are almost entirely made of. When you meet someone through attraction, through chemistry, through the electric uncertainty of early dating, you are also performing. You are being the version of yourself that is most appealing, most curated, most designed to be chosen. That performance can last months, sometimes years. It creates a honeymoon period that eventually dissolves into the real person, and sometimes that dissolution is devastating because the gap between the performance and the reality is too wide to bridge. But when two strangers are placed in the same space with no performance required, because neither of you chose the other in the conventional sense, what you get instead is something far more confronting and far more valuable. You get the actual person, immediately. At 7 in the morning with no coffee and a bad night of sleep and all of their habits fully on display. And here's the thing I did not expect. The thing that Shadowlight Stories was built to surface. The detail that sits underneath the visible story and carries the real weight. She was nervous too. I found that out much later, around month 4, when she admitted that the chai she placed on that counter on day 16 was not a confident gesture. She had stood in the kitchen for 4 minutes debating whether to pour a second cup. Whether it would feel presumptuous, whether I would even notice, whether it was too forward for a stage of knowing someone so early. She almost didn't do it. She almost put the cup back and let the moment pass the way dozens of other small moments had passed between us in those first weeks. The gesture that rewrote my mornings almost never happened. And that fact, the near miss of it, is something I have turned over in my mind many times since. How many lives are shaped by the moments someone almost chose differently? How many of the things we describe as destiny were actually just a person overcoming 4 minutes of doubt? There is a version of my life where she puts the cup back, where I keep eating cereal over the sink, where we remain two polite strangers sharing a physical space and never really sharing anything else. That version is entirely plausible. It almost happened. The only difference between that version and the one I am living is that she decided the discomfort of possibly being wrong was worth the risk of possibly being right. She taught me something that no productivity article, no morning routine YouTube video, no self-improvement framework had ever managed to teach me in 6 years of trying. She taught me that a good morning is not about the perfect sequence of habits. It is not about waking at 5, journaling, cold shower, meditation, gym, protein shake, the optimized human machine performing its optimal startup sequence. A good morning is about being present with someone, about choosing, in the smallest and most ordinary way, to acknowledge that another person exists alongside you, about pouring a second cup, not because the manual says to, but because you noticed. That is the whole thing. Noticing, and then doing something with what you noticed. My morning routine now looks almost unrecognizable compared to 6 years ago. There is no cereal over the sink. There is a table and a conversation and 2 cups of something warm, and a question asked and answered before the day is properly started. None of it is dramatic. All of it is deliberate. And I genuinely believe, that the quality of those first 40 minutes determines something true and important about the hours that follow. So here is the question I want to leave you with today, and I genuinely want to know your answer in the comments. Think about the last time someone did something small for you that changed something big inside you. A gesture, a word, a moment of unexpected attention that landed deeper than it had any right to. What was it? Because I think we remember those moments more clearly than we remember the grand ones, and I think they deserve to be spoken out loud more often than we speak them. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Not because sharing is just a click, but because somewhere there is a person standing in a kitchen right now, debating whether to pour a second cup, wondering if it's worth the risk. And maybe the right story reaching them at the right moment is exactly what helps them decide. Some of the most important things in a life are not chosen, they are noticed, and then, quietly, kept.